Bleach is known for having many memorable characters, but very few are as scary and as overpowered as Kenpachi Zaraki. The Squad 11 captain who sliced apart a goddamn meteor survived in the vacuum of space and could very well be capable of wiping out multiple planets with ease. Sup guys, it's been a while since I have actually covered Bleach or well done any videos in general, but I've recently gone over the entire manga once again, and although Kenpachi does a lot of crazy things in it, he might be even more overpowered than we thought since the graphic novels uncover some, I guess you could say, downloadable content to his feats. Anyways, I'm not gonna bore y'all, so let's go ahead and jump in to see how much of a beast Kenpachi truly is and if he really is the most powerful Shinigami. So Kenpachi started out as a regular kid who did regular kid stuff, you know, like stealing somebody's zanpakuto and cutting up people with it, you know, really simple stuff that we probably all did when we were young, right? And although he was born without a name, he eventually got a hold of the title of Kenpachi by basically killing a bunch of people and after defeating Unohana, who was the original Kenpachi. And the important thing to realize is that Kenpachi never really thought of his zanpakuto as like an ally or a friend, but more so as literally a weapon I can cut up fools up with. That is all he thought of it as. And I mean, even so, his spiritual pressure was so damn high that other captains had to actually team up against him, like we saw in the Soul Society arc where we actually see Kaname Tosen and Kamamura try to fight off against him, but even then, they couldn't really do much, I mean, because Kenpachi is a damn monster. Later on in that arc, Ichigo did actually manage to defeat this monster with amazing skill, you know, clearly not plot or anything, but the point is that due to his immense plot armor, you know, Kenpachi was able to lose, but it was more so because, as we learned from Unohana, that he subconsciously suppressed himself so that he could actually enjoy a battle and actually try to have fun because he was so damn powerful that he could never really find somebody to challenge him. Kind of like a Saitama thing, but without, you know, the idiotic fanboy. Now during the Arrancar arc is when we actually saw Kenpachi reach even higher levels of power as he managed to defeat the 5th Espada, Noitora, who is actually stated as having the strongest Hierro among all of the Espada. But that still didn't stop Kenny because he still cut that fool up, so clearly didn't really matter. And then after being healed up by Orihime, Kenny set out to fight off against the strongest Espada, being Yami, who although seems like some idiot musclehead, yes, he actually is like the most powerful Espada going by the highest Ryatsu level. Yami was actually the 0 Espada and was even more powerful than Baragon, Ukiura, and Stark. And sure, the other Espada do have other advantages over Yami, like not being an idiot, you know, having common sense, and, you know, having a lot, you know, better speed. But going by raw power alone, like the pure spiritual pressure that Yami had set off, made him the strongest one, and even the guidebooks confirm that yes, Yami was the strongest Espada at the time. And even as powerful as Yami was, Kenpachi was all like, I don't care bro, I don't care how big you are, I'm still gonna cut you up. And he did exactly just that, although he did have some assistance from Byakuya, but I mean, they were kind of like in a free-for-all kind of sense. But the point is that Kenpachi during this time should easily be comparable to the top Espada who have incredible power. I mean, we're talking country-wiping levels of power even from the lower Espada. And although I did cover this like in depth in my Ukiura video, we can do a quick recap. We know that even Grimmjow in his base form had the capability to actually like cause heavy damage to, if not even wipe out Las Noches. Now Las Noches can actually be scaled from being like city size to well over country size. It actually depends on which calculation you want to go with, but generally it can be within that range, give or take. And unfortunately, we don't actually know exactly how much more powerful Haribel or Stark are in comparison to Ukiura, but the point is that Kenpachi was still able to kill off an Espada who was more powerful than Ukiura, who should easily be able to wipe out countries with his Lanza de Relámpago. And hell, we can actually scale the Espada even higher going by the Hellverse movie, which actually directly mentions the battle between Ukiura and Ichigo taking place. And it was also directly supervised by Tite Kubo, as he did with a lot of other movies. So during the movie, it was implied that Vastalord Ichigo would have been able to actually wipe out Hell itself, which should logically be planetary, if not even multiplanetary in size. And I mean, think about it, even Captain General Yamamoto has like trillions of souls residing in his zanpakuto alone, which is far more people than the Earth currently holds or that have ever lived in history. So that is an insane amount. So for Soul Society or Hell to have like way more souls than that since like the beginning of time, then it must be pretty damn big, right? So if Kenpachi can fight Espada who are around that level, and I mean he logically got way more powerful than Vassal or the Ichigo down the line, then he would already be planetary going by like the Hellverse movie alone, which is just insane. And hey, even if you don't want to accept the Hellverse movie for scaling, it doesn't really matter because going by the Quincy War arc, the official manga, the official guidebooks, you know, the graphic novels, Kenpachi should logically still be well over planet level, and I'll prove it as to why that is. Now before some of you down players start calling me like a Bleach wanker and start angrily typing, please do pay attention to the scaling as it will make a lot more sense. Plus, if you check out my Ukiora video, you will see why the Espada, even like the lower ones, are well over country level, and Kenpachi and the other captains should logically be at that level, if not even higher, by the end of the Espada arc. So according to the series, we know that many of these Stern Ridders were actually comparable to the captains of the Gotei 13, and this was very well shown in the first battle since like Soul Society caught a major L in the first battle, like completely wiped out. So Byakuya died. Well, I mean, he didn't really die because fangirls got way too upset. They're like, hey man, why would you kill our beautiful Byakuya and get back to life? So don't tell me that fanboying did not save the world. Anyway, so we saw Renji and Toshido and these other captains get completely slapped around. They couldn't do anything because their shit got stolen. And then Kenpachi comes out of nowhere with like his big chat stature. He's like, hey man, I just got like these like 3 Stern Raiders on my back. I'm just chilling, bro. And he comes up to Yuha Bach and he's like, you're like the boss of these scrubs? Cause, you know, like they're boring as hell, man. So Kenny showed that he don't need that shit. He doesn't need a Shikai or a Bankai to do work. So that already shows that he was well over the level of many of these other captains post-training. So yeah, that is a really good telltale sign that this fool is a monster. Even with his eye patch on, Kenpachi caused a huge clash when he tried to charge at the fake Yuha Bach, who as we know should have comparable power to the real one because Vroid and Lloyd have the ability to not only copy someone's appearance, but also their memories and power. And Kenpachi did unfortunately lose, but I mean, even Captain Yamamoto had trouble against a doppelganger, so you really can't blame him. And I mean, he didn't have a Shikai or a Bankai on him, but it clearly showed that he had a lot more development to go through, and Type Kubo did not disappoint except with Grimmjow. But the point is that Kenpachi would only get more overpowered from here on out, and that is where the fun actually really begins. It is also worth noting that Kenpachi was like the only captain among the Gotei 13 that was seen as like a special threat to the Stern Ridders. This was due to like his immense raw power without the need of a Shikai nor a Bankai. And the captains also knew that Kenpachi had like a vast amount of potential, and they set him out to train with Unohana by being nearly killed over and over again, which in turn helped him obtain like a Zenkai boost and made him a lot more powerful. So after boosting for XP with Unohana and killing her off, Kenpachi was finally able to hear his Zanpakuto for the first time. He was also able to become the true Kenpachi, and the most important thing was that he actually took off his restraints that would actually suppress his power, which is why he would actually fight to his fullest potential now. So after being worried about Yachiru's well-being, Kenpachi set out to fight off against Gremmy, who although seemed like some regular teenage boy, he was actually mad overpowered. Not only were like the other top Stern Ritter like really concerned or scared of his power, they were like, what were they thinking letting this fool out? He's gonna kill all of us. But even the guidebooks and the graphic novels imply that Gremmy was indeed like the mightiest or the most powerful Stern Ritter at that time, and obviously we're not counting in Yuha Bach, but you guys get the gist that this guy was no laughing matter. And for those that haven't read the manga in a while, Gremmy's power was being able to make his imagination come true, which actually gave Kenny a lot of trouble. And I'm actually really surprised that Gremmy didn't once use his power to make cat girls. I mean, imagine, we could be funding these for Shane Dawson, you know, because he really needs them. But anyways, Gremmy tried many things to get the best of Kenpachi, throwing him into the vacuum of space, you know, which actually damaged many of his organs. And Kenpachi didn't care. He's like, hey bro, you ruptured my organs, I'm fine, I'm just gonna keep cutting you up. So yeah, that just tells you a lot about his durability. So Gremmy was getting fed up. He's like, okay, I cannot kill this dude, so I need to step it up a little bit. And he had to resort to calling in a goddamn meteor that not only scared the other Stern Ritter, but it also made everyone think that they were gonna die, like some 2012 level of hysteria. And it was actually stated that this meteor could have easily wiped out the Zaraki, which should also be planetary in size at the very least. And I mean, think about it. I give you guys an example with Hell that, I mean, it's logically gonna be much larger than a planet, and Soul Society and the Zaraki is kind of like heaven, right? So you would expect a lot of souls to go there from many realms after they become purified. So clearly the Zaraki is gonna be really, really big, just like Hell, so it should logically be planetary at least if you're gonna wipe it out. And this is actually really consistent with what we saw in the story. So for one, we know that Captain Yamamoto, even while holding back with his Bankai, was gonna be able to wipe out like the entire Soul Society if he did not end the fight quickly. And we also know that his Bankai was like so damn hot and powerful that he was actually drying up all of the water in the Zaraki. And second, we know that Yhwach was comparable to Yamamoto without the Almighty, and then once he got the Almighty, he was powerful enough to not only collapse the Earth, but also the Soul Society at the same time. So yeah, that is clearly proof that the God tiers are well over planetary, and Kenpachi is not like insanely below them, but he should be relative in those planetary levels of power at the very least. And normally when you see a big ass meteor heading your way, you're gonna be like, yep, well, it's been a good run, man. Have a good one. But no, Kenpachi was looking at it, he was smiling, he was like, I've never cut up one of these before, this will be fun. So with one hit, while wearing his eye patch and a Shikai, he wiped out the meteor like it was nothing. It doesn't really matter how low you want to place this feat, you can't go any lower than multi-continental because we've seen many big meteors in the past cause mass extinctions. I mean, dinosaurs, anyone, you know, rest in peace of those fools, but I mean, the point is that meteors can cause a lot of damage to the planet's surface and clearly the whole planet in general. So if this meteor is stated to wipe out the Zaraki, which should also be at least planetary in size, then it's in general a pretty radical feat that Kenpachi wiped it out while suppressed. So let's move on to what we came for, the Bankai. So during the second battle of the Zaraki, Byakuya post-training and other captains were actually able to do a lot more work this time. They could fight a lot better even without their Bankai. And Byakuya was actually able to defeat 3 Stern Ritter, and the other vice captains could like defeat 1, but Kenpachi could have already defeated several of them without his training. So that kind of gives you like an idea of the power gap between Kenpachi and the other captains. And on top of that, when Kenpachi arrives to help Toshido and Byakuya against Gerard Valkyrie, Toshido tries to actually stop him, and Kenpachi's like, hey bro, if I wouldn't have been holding back, I would have cut your ass in two. So, you know, during this point, Kenpachi can definitely one-shot captains post-training, so that is really impressive right there, and in base as well. But this guy Gerard Valkyrie was so powerful that Kenpachi, he didn't have any time to goof around with him. He had to take out like his Shikai and also take off his eye patch, and even then Valkyrie was not going down, and Kenpachi's like, okay, this guy's actually really powerful, so I need to step it up here and now. And that is when he finally unlocked the Bankai, which many people were looking forward to for so many years, myself included. Now the really cool thing about the Bankai is that it actually shows like Kenpachi's true rage and monstrosity in such a spectacular fashion. I mean, he has blood red skin, all these battle markings, he looks like he's ready to kill someone. I mean, he did just that. He charged right at Valkyrie, tore right through his shield, and cut him in half like it was nothing. And do keep in mind that Gerard Valkyrie during this time had actually been amped by the Australian light that Yhwach used once they took over the royal palace. So during this point, Valkyrie was more powerful than Gremmy, and Kenpachi still defeated him. So Kenny took care of 2 of the most powerful Stern Ritters in Yhwach's army, which is a lot of reputation for him right there. And even though Kenpachi's Bankai was like overwhelmingly chatty, the drawback was that his body could not maintain that much power for long because basically it was just way too much power for his body to handle. And we have heard from many characters that Kenpachi is Kenpachi because his body can actually maintain his power, like only his body can maintain that much spiritual pressure. But in this case, his body was like, nah bro, this is way too much even for me. So clearly Kenpachi could not use it for long, but more than likely after training, he was able to lessen the effects of it. And although we didn't see Kenpachi like play a big role against fighting off Yhwach, he was still a big contender in the war, and even other characters knew this because they said, okay, if we kill Kenpachi, we can pretty much secure this victory for us. That's what the Stern Ritters believe. And then we have the Soul Reapers. They were like, okay, if we save Kenpachi, then we can turn this whole war around and we can win this. So Kenpachi was not only used like as a plot device, but also as a character that is meant to be overwhelmingly powerful, and it works really well with him because Kenpachi is like, you know, the Hulk. He's kind of like the Broly of the series that is just meant to get more powerful as time goes on, and he is just a complete Chad. And I think that Tai Kubo did him a lot of justice, and he actually gets more overpowered feats within the graphic novels, which are official continuations to the Bleach manga. So the graphic novel in question is called Bleach Can't Fear Your Own World, which actually takes place several months after the Quincy War arc, and we are actually met with many of the survivors of the Espada, the Quincy's, and the Soul Reapers who didn't get, screwed up in the war. But we are also met with a new character named Hikone, who is kind of like Ichigo. He has Hollow, Quincy, Fullbringer, and Soul Reaper traits. Now, I'm not gonna go over the whole plot, you guys can read it for yourselves, but Hikone was basically like a byproduct of Gremmy's imagination powers, and he was also meant to be the replacement for the Soul King because Yhwach screwed him up, he killed him. And although Hikone does not look like much, he actually proved to be a really challenging foe even for Kenpachi. So off the get-go, Hikone was actually stated to being as powerful or having comparable power to the captains without a sword release. And we also learned that he can use many speed techniques and even combine them all together, so he can use Shunpo, Sonido, and Kirin Kyaku at the same time, which is pretty crazy, right? He can also use Hierro and Blood Vein, which he can actually combine to have crazy defense. Hikone's attacks were so powerful that the Arrancars actually took damage from it, and the Quincy's had to use their Blood Vein to their full potential just to survive, and Kenpachi knocked those attacks away like they were nothing. And also do keep in mind that Grimmjow during this time was more powerful than Vastalord Ichigo, Ukiura, and also Yami, so he was indeed the most powerful Espada at the time, as Kenpachi himself even believes so, and even then, these attacks from Hikone could have actually damaged him. Hikone was even able to make Kenpachi bleed, which as we know is really hard to do, and the crazier thing is he did it with his bare hands, not a blade, because he can actually combine Blood Artery and Hierro to further enhance his combat abilities. And even with the heavenly speed that Hikone had, by combining all of these speed abilities at the same time, Kenpachi could still keep up with him, and he even managed to cut through him even when he had Blood Vein and Hierro combined. So Kenpachi is still gonna cut you, man. He doesn't care what you have. And I mean, there's clearly a lot more to the graphic novel, but we see a lot of cool interactions. We actually see Grimmjow and Kenpachi, they're basically looking at each other. They're like, yo, we should fight, dude, but it didn't happen. So we pretty much got blue balled on that end as well, but still, I would highly recommend reading it, and I hope at some point that it will get animated, which I don't know if it'll happen once I'm 40 years old or something, because these fools don't want to animate the series for some reason. But anyways, it would not be a power scale if we did not go over the speed of Kenpachi. So going by the guidebooks, we actually get a lot of important information. So for one, we know that Ichigo, during his battle with Byakuya, was actually fighting at the speed of lightning, which is about 220,000 miles per hour, going by the downward stroke. And another guide also states that the Seto, which is an attack that, Ichigo can use, and also the Espada and Arrancars, is actually light-based. You can take that as you will, but there are more examples in the Quincy War arc that does give us some faster than light feats. So even the fodder Stern Ritters and the Vice Captains could actually react to Yhwach's Ashwayland Light, which is literally light, so there you go. And we also know that Kyoraku, when he fought against X-Axis, he was actually able to dodge and react to many of his light-based attacks mid-combat. So I think it is really clear that during this time, captains should easily be faster than the speed of light, and the guidebooks do give us a hint that hey, even all the way back in the Soul Society arc, Ichigo and Byakuya were fighting at lightning speed, and lightning is not too far off from light, but gotta get the idea that the power increase and the speed increase did go from arc to arc. The point is, whether you go by feats or scaling or the guidebooks, it is quite clear that the captains during the Quincy War arc are indeed faster than the speed of light in combat. So in conclusion, Kenpachi is an absolute monster and should easily be like the most powerful living Shinigami in the Gotei 13, as no other captain has even come close to his overwhelming insane combat ability. He should at the very least be multi-continental level while heavily suppressed, and going by common sense and logic and scaling, he should easily be planetary, if not even multi-planetary if you want to scale off the Hellverse movie, but point is, he is really damn powerful, and he should also be several times above light speed as well. Anyways guys, I really hope that you enjoyed this video. I did a lot of work on it. Kenpachi is one of my favorite Bleach characters, and I mean, you can just not make a video on him. He is just way too overpowered, and I'm really glad I covered this video. So thanks to James Hansen and Clyde as well for helping me out with the video. Really great guys. Check out their channels in the description below. And I will definitely do more Bleach videos. Hopefully it doesn't take as long, but please subscribe if you enjoyed, and I'll catch you Zodi's next time. Peace out.